All right, kids, a quick video on glazing. One thing that's very important is that when that glaze turns to glass and it runs, we don't want it to stick to the kiln shelf. The kiln shelf, if we stick it to the kiln shelf, it will not come off. It's stuck. Do this. Then we have to chisel it off and it breaks. To prevent it from sticking to the kiln shelf, we don't want glaze, no glaze on the bottom. So the very first thing that you will do is back there by this container, it is wax. You will do this back by the sinks. I will have a big sign that says wax. The wax needs to be applied anywhere where your piece is touching the kiln shelf and a tiny bit above it. I just got it on my hands. So I don't want to touch this with wax on my hands because then wax, I've already put this on the bottom of his feet. I've also put it a little bit up so if that glaze melts, it will not run down and stick it to the kiln shelf. So you will have some brushes back there, poured out already green, and that is your wax. That will be your first thing. After you wax it, then go ahead and take this piece back to your desk and just set it upside down because it needs to dry a little bit. While that is drying, then you go back to the glaze stations. I'm going to have these jars of glaze with the names on it. This is sapphire blue with a stir stick in it. Sapphire blue looks very gray before it's fired. So you don't know what these glazes a lot of times will look like. However, I will have test tiles that have the name of the glaze over there on the counter somewhere so you can look at this and say, ooh, I like that kind of blue. What is it? Sapphire blue. So that's what this gray color will look like once it's fired. Test tile. All right. Open jars, we don't know if it's been stirred for a while. Maybe nobody last class used this, so you'll really want to stir it real good. Take this stick, rake it off the sides, stir it, getting down at the bottom, on the sides, around, stir, stir, stir. Okay, I'm gonna have spoons back here too. Probably a big tray to keep it from going all over the place. Get you a spoon out, and first of all, you are going to use 2 main colors of glaze, just 2. I don't want us to get all of our colors mixed up. So think about, or you can use 1. You can make this all, that will be very cool too. I thought with my dude with a beard and a face that I'm gonna do the beard in 1 color and the face in another. Any color that you want. You could use this. I do not have a test tile for this, so I'm going to do this and hopefully speckle glaze. I remember this being kind of a tan glaze that looks kind of like a snickerdoodle cookie. There's little specks, so it's cool. So this is kind of a very light cream colored glaze. That's in here. You will look at your piece and decide how much glaze you need. You don't need this much. I got a little crazy. You're gonna have little cups. I'm gonna try, hopefully, have enough like this for you. And for his mustache and eyebrows, that's not very, we good? His mustache and eyebrows, that's not very much. So, for the sapphire blue, I don't need that much. 2 coats of glaze over all those parts, that'll be enough for you. So don't waste a bunch of glaze. We know this is sapphire blue. At the end, when you don't use it all and you've got some in this deal, go back to the sapphire blue and dump it back in here if you have enough. If it's just a tiny bit, throw this away, throw it away. All right. Real carefully, I am going to paint the areas of his mustache and eyebrows with my sapphire blue. Now, I'm not going to let this video run for the whole time that I'm doing this, but I would paint it one coat, and then I get his beard done, and I paint his eyebrows, then let it vibe for a couple minutes, and paint the second coat. Now, depending on if you have time, after you've done that, his eyebrows, his beard, everything gets at least 2 coats, no more. One will make these colors look really pale and it won't be very pretty. It'll look like you just kind of real watery. 2 is probably about perfect. 3 might run in places where you don't want it to. So at least 2 coats of glaze. So I paint his beard, I paint his eyebrows, I paint everything that I want blue 2 times. Next, let's pretend like this is dry. And pretend like you have time. Like, look at the clock. Once you got that first glaze, you got this brush, you got this. I'm going to continue using this, but say you had that much. Put it back in here, wash this brush. I've only got 5 minutes. You're done. You're done. So, if you have time, we've done that. I'm ready for my second color. I look at the clock, I've got at least 10 minutes. If you've got 10 minutes only, don't get this much. But if you're ready for your second color, get your second color. If you start at the beginning of the period, you will be able to do all of this, okay? So I don't want you to get a bunch of glaze and not run out, or have time, run out of time and waste it. On his face, I am going to do 2 colors of my other glaze. This is the speckle. I am going to get down in those cracks. I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to paint everything on his face this color. Now, be smart about this. If you touch the outside of it, you're going to wipe off the glaze. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to have to like stick it in like this, my fingers in, and do this, and then at the very last, paint the inside, right? It just makes sense. If I'm trying to hold it like this and I've got glaze on, I'm going to get wiped glaze off with my fingers. So do the inside. I would recommend trying to do this, being really careful. I'm kind of putting outward pressure on my fingers. If you don't have strong fingers, you could maybe turn this guy upside down, get a placemat. You could, pinch it like this and then paint that part very last. But whatever you do, you can't hold on to the outside once you got glaze on it because it wipes your glaze off. So what I'm going to do on mine is I'm going to paint the inside very last, and I'm just going to do this so I can move him around. Two coats of glaze on everything, and then I will tell you I'll have to figure out where we're going to put these until they get fired. So do that. Don't waste the glaze. Don't get too much. You can always get more, but all right, see you.